Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So today we're going to talk about federal judges versus MAGA. There is a tug of war going on between the Trump administration and the federal judges. Remember, Donald Trump really thinks he can do anything he wants to do, but this country does have a set of laws in place that are designed to govern this country. So, what's going on is that Donald Trump is making these authoritarian moves, and the courts are striking those moves down. So Donald Trump is doing what he always does when somebody opposes him. He tries to find a way to get back at them. So now he's going after the federal judges. Remember, this woman, Gwen Wilcox, was appointed to the National Labor Relations Board in 2021 by Joe Biden. She was the first black person to serve on that board. Immediately after taking office, Donald Trump fired her. No reason was given. He just fired her. She took her case to the National District Court of the District of Columbia, and Judge Beryl Howell reinstated her and told Donald Trump that a president of the United States is not a king. Well, naturally, he didn't like that. Then last week, Trump deported Venezuelan migrants that he called gangs, dangerous gangs, to El Salvador. And the judge in Texas, Boasberg, said that it was illegal, that they had not been given due process. But Trump got mad and wants to impeach this judge. So now there's a real fight going on between the Trump administration and the federal judges. So let's talk about it. Article 3, Section 1 of the Constitution says judicial powers of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. So the Constitution established the Supreme Court, but it gave the power to the Congress to establish what it calls inferior courts. The inferior courts are the district courts and the circuit courts of appeal. The inferior federal courts were established to ensure a more efficient and organized judicial system within the United States. In other words, the Supreme Court cannot handle all of these cases, and some of these cases don't even need to go to the Supreme Court. They can be handled in a lower court. The Supreme Court only hears about 80 cases a year, whereas 7,000 to 8,000 cases are submitted to them. So they need help in handling all of these cases. So that is why the lower courts were established. Now, Congress has the power to establish those courts, but those courts are supposed to work with the Supreme Court to settle cases involving the federal government. Now, here's why this discussion is important. This is Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He is a MAGA man. He's a big time Trump supporter, and he would have to be the Speaker of the House. Now, he has come out to say that they just need to do away with the district courts because the Congress is over the courts. Now, the Constitution gave the Congress the power to establish the district courts and the Circuit Court of Appeals to relieve the burden of the Supreme Court. And that's just my way of putting it. Now he's going to try to threaten to end these lower courts if they don't rule the way Donald Trump wants them to rule. So this is what came out today. House Speaker Mike Johnson, we do have authority over the federal courts. That's what he said. Now, again, the Constitution gives the Congress the power to establish lower courts, but not for them to rule the way any particular party wants them to rule. So I'll share a little bit of the article. And this is from USA Today. House Speaker Mike Johnson said Congress has broad authority over the federal courts Tuesday as lawmakers search for a response to district judges who have blocked President Donald Trump's actions. We do have authority over the federal courts, Johnson said at a press conference. We can eliminate an entire district court. We have power of funding over the courts and all these other things. But desperate times call for desperate measures, and Congress is going to act. Well, right now, in order for them to do anything with the district courts, they would have to have the entire Congress involved. The Republicans can't do anything by themselves. And he's speaking as if they can. The Republicans only have 218 members in the House of Representatives. They barely have enough to pass a bill, let alone impeach a judge or do away with the district. They have to have the support of the entire Congress, and they don't have that. So he's just blowing smoke. Johnson later said that he did not mean the comment as a threat, but was instead trying to illustrate that the Congress has a broad scope of authority over the courts. It did come off as a threat, but he probably thought better of it, realizing that he didn't have the numbers to back up that big talk. Last week, Trump called for the impeachment of Judge James Boasberg, a U.S. district judge who ordered the administration to temporarily halt the deportation of alleged Venezuelan gang members. So that's when he really got mad because he thought he had the authority to deport people who were in the country illegally. But apparently, they had not been given due process. So the judge temporarily halted the deportation. And that was the plane that was in the air when the judge made the ruling, and they wouldn't turn the plane back. But Trump really got upset about that, and that's when he started talking about impeaching judges. So here is the matchup: Congressman Mike Johnson for MAGA and the federal judges. The first one telling Trump he's not a king. The second one telling Trump you have to give even illegal immigrants due process. And the third one telling Trump that he cannot ban transgenders from serving in the United States military. So this is a lineup. And Trump really wants to do something about these judges because that's just who he is. If you oppose him, he wants to get back at you. He wants to find a way to punish you. So he's talking about impeaching these judges. Well, the problem is that in order to impeach a federal judge, you have to have a 67 supermajority in the United States Senate. The Republicans only have 53 senators. So they would have to persuade 14 Democrats to vote with them in impeaching those federal judges. Now, mind you, some of those judges were appointed by Republican presidents, but I seriously doubt that they would get even one Democrat to go along with this nonsense, because you can't just remove a judge because he doesn't agree with your agenda. Like, I honestly thought that he could deport those illegals from the United States. I think many of us did. So now I'm going to have to go back and read the Immigration Act, the latest Immigration Act, to see what their rights are. But these judges are standing on the principle they have to judge on what the law says. They have to go by what the law says. And that is what they're doing. And so he can't take somebody telling him no. But I believe these judges are going to stand on principle, and he can't do anything with the Supreme Court. They could impeach the Supreme Court too, but it would be the same thing. So you can't just go around impeaching judges because they don't agree with your agenda or they won't rule in your favor. Because if you do that, you might as well throw the whole thing away. But anyway, this is what's going on now. We've got the federal judges standing up to MAGA. We'll see what happens, so everybody stay tuned. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.